How many of you have tried to diet? If you have, then you know that dieting is tough. Everyone has tried to diet at some point in their lives, but only 5% of people successfully complete their diet. Why is that? Why is dieting so difficult to follow? That is what we are going to talk about in today's video. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Siddharth Warrior and welcome to my YouTube channel where we talk about neuroscience, health and how to live a good life. If you're new here, welcome and consider subscribing to my channel to learn more about your brain, your body and healthy living. There are two challenges to dieting. Number one is picking which diet to follow. There are many popular options like intermittent fasting, keto diet, paleo diet, fruitarian diet, Mediterranean diet. There are many options. Which diet you pick depends on your nutritional goals, your religious, your ethical beliefs, and frankly, which YouTube channels you follow. But today's video is not going to be about which diet you should pick. If you want to learn about which foods are good for your brain, you can check out this video of mine, and I hope that helps. In today's video, we're going to assume that you have already decided which diet you want to follow, and now you just want to make sure that you do it. So why is it difficult? Why is following a healthy diet hard even though you know that it is good for you? Why are people still not able to complete it? The short answer is in this line: the part of your brain that decides to diet is not the part of the brain that actually does the eating. When we plan to diet, we are thinking with our prefrontal cortex. This is the most evolved part of the brain that is responsible for logic, reason, calculation, thinking long term into the future. This is the part of the brain that calculates that if you eat this kind of food, you will become healthy and you will remain healthy after 5-10 years. But in that moment of hunger, when you actually want to eat something, the part of the brain that is active is the limbic system. This is the emotional, primitive part of the brain, and this part does not really think about long-term plans. So it doesn't care about what will happen 5-10 years later. It only cares about how you will feel now. And because eating high carb, high calorie foods feel good in the moment, that is why the limbic system can overpower whatever plans the prefrontal cortex has made. And this in a nutshell is why dieting is so difficult. And this is also why as soon as you've broken your diet, you might feel so bad, because that is the prefrontal cortex realizing what it has allowed the limbic system to do. And that is a feeling that we are all familiar with. So how do we prevent this from happening? So here are 5 things that you can do to make sure that you are successful in your diet. Number 1 is understanding the hunger pathway. Now, you might feel that whenever you're hungry, it must mean that your body needs energy. But that's not always true. You see, there are 2 pathways of hunger: the energy pathway and the emotion pathway. So basically, this means that we eat for 2 reasons. Number 1, when you are low on energy and you need to replenish your energy reserve. And number 2, when you're feeling emotional. The first part, which is the energy part, is controlled by a part of the brain called as the hypothalamus. This is where the hunger center lies, and this part of the brain is talking to your stomach, your glucose levels, and it knows how much energy your body has and how much it should eat. But emotional eating comes from the limbic system and the dopamine pathway. So this is how food is also associated with reward and motivation. You must have noticed that every time you want to celebrate, you feel like eating food, or every time you've done something good and you want to reward yourself, you think of food. And even sometimes when you're feeling low and you just want to feel motivated again, you reach out for food. This is all emotional eating and it has nothing to do with energy levels. So it is important to recognize when you're feeling hungry, which kind of hunger is it? Are you eating for energy or are you eating for emotional support? And if it is the latter, it is better to look for other ways of supporting your emotions than food. Step number 2 to sticking to your diet is changing your environment. Now, I want you to imagine a triangle where the bottom most important part is environment, the middle part is physiology, and the top part is psychology. This is the triangle that I want you to keep in your mind whenever you want to make any kind of change in your behavior. You see, too often we put too much pressure on our mindset, our psychology, in the way we think, and too little on physiology and environment. So today I'm going to talk to you about how we can change psychology by changing environment and physiology. So let's come back to changing your environment. The more you fix your environment to work for you, the less you have to struggle to achieve your goals. So what can you change in your environment that helps you diet better? There are two things. Number one is people. The people around you are more likely to determine what kind of food you eat. So hanging out with people who are in the same diet plan as you definitely makes a difference. If you're lucky and you're in a relationship with somebody who's also in the same diet plan, that works wonders. Having friends who are living the same lifestyle as you makes your challenge much easier. You can also change your people environment by following the right people on social media and following the right YouTube channels. And the other part of environment is food. Remove snacks from the house that you don't want to be tempted by and replace them with food that you should eat. Remove easy temptations like food apps where you keep ordering from, and try to make sure that your meals come to you before you are hungry. Body's physiology has a role in how we make decisions. You must have noticed that whenever you haven't slept well or you've just lazed around in bed all day, you don't tend to make good decisions. This is because your physiology affects the way that you decide. So in order to have a good diet, make sure that you're sleeping well, you get morning sunlight, and you've got your regular exercise schedule going. Sticking to this mantra of environment first, physiology second, and psychology third will make your life so much easier. And now we've come to step number 4, which is psychology, which is training your prefrontal cortex. Now remember what I told you, that the prefrontal cortex decides the diet, but the limbic system is the one that eats. This need not be the case if your prefrontal cortex is trained. So the only way to actually diet is if your prefrontal cortex is deciding what food you should eat at the moment of eating it. And for that, you have to do some planning. Because remember that the closer you are to the moment of hunger, the more powerful your limbic system gets and the less chances your prefrontal cortex has in sticking to your diet. So here are 3 things you can do to help your PFC diet well. Number 1, decide your meals 1 day in advance. Before you go to sleep, just think to yourself of what foods you're going to eat in the morning, for lunch, and for dinner. Just have a list in your brain so that when you wake up the next day, those decisions are already made. Number 2, decide when you will eat. Make sure that you have a fixed time for when your next meal is going to be, so that even if you get hungry in the middle, you know that my time for eating hasn't come yet. And number 3, suppose you do feel hungry and you do feel like eating something, give yourself a 15-minute break. Just tell yourself that I know I'm hungry, I will eat this. Even if it is a samosa or a vada pav or a slice of pizza, it's fine. Even if it is not in my diet, I will eat it, but I will not eat it on impulse. I will not eat it just because my limbic told me to. I will wait for 15 minutes and then I will eat it. This is like a contingency plan, but even something as small as this gives your prefrontal cortex more control over your limbic. Think of it this way. The limbic is a child, and every time you listen to it, it'll become more and more cranky. So it's good to give some kind of discipline training to your limbic. And doing this over time means your prefrontal cortex gets more and more authority over your childlike limbic. And finally, step number 5 in sticking to your diet is timelines. Dieting requires a fundamental change in the way that you see food and how you control emotions. So because this is not going to be an overnight thing, I would want you to be patient. Don't be too hard on yourself when something doesn't go right immediately. But at the same time, don't let yourself off the hook saying that, oh, because I failed this week, nothing can happen and I will go back to my earlier unhealthy lifestyle. Understanding that there is a timeline and some amount of failure is expected actually makes you calm and gives you more time to work with. Try to approach dieting in a staggered way, which is, for example, in week 1, you will only remove junk food from the house. That's it. And in week 2, you'll only remove those extra food apps that you have that you can keep ordering from. This makes it much more feasible that you'll stick to your diet as opposed to an all or none phenomenon. So these are some tricks that I have been using to stick to a diet. Let me know if you found this useful. Subscribe to my channel. I know it's free, but it gives me a lot of motivation to keep creating high quality videos for you guys. And I will see you soon. All the best. Cheers.